But this is a game that offers a little bit of deck building, but it does it in a very unique way because any of the cards that you play, they don't actually get discarded. Instead, they just go into play, and then once they cycle out of play, they're going to be going directly back into your hand. You're going to be using those cards to take all sorts of different actions, collect resources, and build buildings out on the main board, and also clear various threats that you might encounter out on this board. This is the main board that's in the center of the table that all the players are going to be using, but then each player is going to have their own personal board where they're going to be engaging in a mechanism known as card dancing. The way this works is that you're going to be playing cards onto this board, and there's 8 different slots where you can play your cards, but these 2 on the right here are blocked until you're able to build those buildings and remove them from the board, which will then make those spaces available to you. But like I said, on your turn you're going to be playing cards into these various locations, and each of your cards can have a couple different actions on them, which can allow you to do different things like trade resources for other resources, gather resources based on the icons that are currently in play. For example, this card allows you to gather one of a particular resource for each of these pink turnips that are in play, and I can see 4 that are in play on the various cards right now. So the timing really does matter when you play these cards because you're going to want to try and trigger those actions when there's as many of those icons as possible. One thing to note is that you do have a limit to the number of resources that you're able to carry at once, and that's indicated by the 8 different spaces in the top right corner of your board, but you can expand that if you are able to build this blue building here, which will open up more slots for you to store even more resources. But more importantly, you'll want to spend those resources, and one way that you can do that is by performing a build action, and every time you place a building, you're going to be scoring victory points based on the number of different types of buildings connected to the one that you just placed. You're going to be building it in one of these regions out on the main board, but the more diverse that your connections are between the different buildings, the more points you're going to score. And there are some actions that allow you to either walk or travel to different areas of the board, but like I said before, some of the areas are dangerous to travel through. And this is where the attack actions come into play, and some of these actions might just allow you to deal a certain amount of damage, while others might scale depending on a particular icon available in your tableau. But there's going to be different dangers appearing out on the main board, and clearing those areas offers you a few different benefits. First of all, it makes moving between those areas a lot easier, and it also rewards you with resources and does earn you victory points. But the thing about these different actions and what makes them so fun is that they're only going to get triggered when you perform a certain action with that card. And there are a few different actions that you can perform on your turn, and the first one is to place a card into your tableau. And whenever you do that and the card has a lightning bolt action on it, then that lightning bolt action is going to get triggered, allowing you to perform that action as well. Your other option is to perform a slide action, and this is going to slide all the cards currently out on your board one space to the left. And then any of the actions on the cards that have this arrow pointing to the left are then going to get activated. Something that's really cool about performing the slide is that when a card slides off the board, it's going to be coming back into your hand, and some of the cards do have this return trigger so that when that happens, it's going to be triggering the action associated with that icon. So you can kind of see how there's 2 layers of actions at play here. There's the actions that you're playing with your cards by either putting them into play or sliding them and having them come off the board back to you, with each of those 3 different events potentially triggering other actions that you can perform on your turn. There are also some special cards that can just trigger on various actions like spending or collecting a certain resource, or they might trigger whenever you want, but just a limited number of times. There are also some icons printed out on the board, and if those are visible, they work exactly like the icons on the cards. And then there's also some spaces that have actions on them, and at any time that you play a card onto one of those spaces, you have the choice to either activate the placement action of your card, or instead activate the action of the space that you've just placed it on. And this can be particularly useful if the card that you placed didn't have a placement action. I think you really will start to feel a rhythm here trying to make certain things trigger in a particular order, so it makes a lot of sense that they do call this whole sequence of events card dancing. I'm really interested in this one, and I'll definitely be trying it out the first time I get a chance, and if it looks interesting to you as well, you can go ahead and check it out, and I will have it linked in the description down below.